that you guys have shown us over the year, and I really look forward to next year. So I will see you guys next year.
Who the heck is Pep Talks?
I'm not gay, but I fantasize about Marco Rubio. Pep Talks. Pep Talks. Pep Talks. Let's eradicate the Kung Flu. I'm literally coming. Pep Talks. Pep Talks.
Who the heck is Pep Talk?
They want our women. They want our children.
Pep Talk.
Sometimes no means yes. Grab them by the pep talk. Grab them by the Marco Rubio. Obama is a racist.
Pep Talk.
I'm literally coming. I'm
Pep
literally coming.
Pep Talks.
We found weapons of mass
Pep Talk.
destruction. My fellow Americans, it has been confirmed today from Pep Talks that we are indeed all high on politics.
What up, doe? This is WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake, and today we're looking back at, I'll say it, one of America's proudest years. We got into piracy, and of course, slavery again. I feel like we really missed out. America started in, if you're not familiar, 1776. And, that was just the tail end of piracy. It was the golden age of sail was wrapping up, and the Iron Age was beginning with steamships and such. And we didn't get a chance to properly thieve and murder on the high seas. So in 2026, it was kind of nice, that we got to get out there and murder and thieve. But there was, admittedly, something that just didn't quite feel right about it. Possibly, it was the fact that we weren't really getting rum or spices or tobacco or sugar cane. No. We were stealing oil, and that didn't feel very piratey. And then it was so short-lived on the high seas. Now, just after Christmas, we're doing a land war. We're attacking the mainland of Venezuela with drones. And it takes a lot of the joy out of it all, First of all, there's no swashbuckling to be had. There's not people with hangers and boarding axes chopping at each other. And then it's all done from a distance with drone strikes. And it just at its very core. Piracy is done by independents. Piracy is supposed to be done by private industry. And although I'm sure we shipped out our murdering to some private industry, I'm sure we certainly greased the palms of some billionaire. It was sanctioned by the U.S. government. It was, in fact, carried out, this criminal act. It was carried out by members of the U.S. government. There's no courage involved. Just the murder and thieving without the courage. And that takes a lot of the sense of adventure away from it. Woof. In all seriousness, I want to recap the year. Yeah, exactly. And they were dressed like Muppets going to a business meeting rather than proper pirates. Donald Trump in his frumpy suits, Pete Hegseth in what I can only imagine is a $60 suit that reeks of booze sweat. They didn't look good either. Man to the pivot. I saved the Robert Reich Wealth and Poverty playlist, but I haven't done the homework yet. But the effort is there. Excellent. All right, before we get into I'm going to give us 10 full minutes to talk about this before we get into the proper news day, because that's something I'm going to ask you all to do. Maybe not this specific course, but I would like you all to take it upon yourselves to get educated on the nuts and bolts of how a civil society is meant to work. And the reason I want you to get educated on the boring stuff, anything, how are crops grown, how are cars manufactured, what is generally considered a stable economy amongst big governments. How is it that England funds its healthcare? How does Canada fund its healthcare? Learn something about how this works that is not opinion based. The reason I want you to do this is because in 2026, we are all going to become evangelicals. All of us now have an obligation. You are probably the most highly informed news watchers. Good for you. Without you, I wouldn't have a show. Nobody else on this space would have a show. All of our content relies on you having a clear-eyed and wide open-eyed view of the facts. Okay, let's go to Robert Reich's course specifically. I looked through every last one of those videos, and I feel like I learned a lot. But I should be clear about something that I wasn't the first time I recommended them. It's not as though I sat through that Berkeley course and left it with the same understanding that any of the students who were in that course did. Why? Because I didn't take all of the classes leading up to the free one that Mr. Reich gave away. Which means my understanding is now very specific to the things he talked about, but I don't have the knowledge that lends context to all those things. I'm telling you this because you won't either, because you're not taking that whole course either, or a whole, well, actually that is a whole course that's up there, but you're not arguably going to be taking the rest of the classes that are meant to fill out that course. So why am I asking you to watch it anyway? You don't have to know all that stuff. Just because you won't take as much away from it as those students will, doesn't mean you won't learn a hell of a lot. You will. In addition, you don't have to watch every single one. You don't even have to watch one in a whole sitting. If you listen to any given 5 minutes of the stuff Robert Reich put out there, you are going to have insight into politics, insight into how America works that the average person does not yet have and desperately needs. So if you can watch a little of one of those or all of one of those, or eventually if you make it a habit, the whole dang thing, any part of that is going to make you way more able to understand the trends and the tendencies that make up American politics and the dialogue around it. That's why I recommend it. It fills in your knowledge. What I'm not trying to get you to do is to overnight have a whole freaking master's degree worth of information. That's unrealistic, and it's not what we need. What we need is a little bit of education, a little bit of a foundation, so that your opinions are not just being formed by an amalgamation, a combination of other people's opinions, but they are in fact formed by a core of facts. And the more times you can go to a course like this, read a book on that, yada, 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 the more your core of facts will grow and the stronger your opinions will be. Okay. Let us review 2026. What was the first year of Trump's last 2 years as president like? And what did we do about it? How have we grown? What should we be doing? I have what seems like good news on the surface, but it's a progressive show, so of course it's going to have to be spoiled. First up, compliments to Pep Talks. I'm so glad he covered that grift by the newest right-wing grifter on the stage. I'm frankly not going to pay very much attention beyond this because I'm not interested in right-wing grifters. I know what they're all like. They don't have souls. They'll say anything for money. They're happy to be racist. They're happy to encourage others to be racist. We know. We get it. We've seen Alex Jones. There's no low that they won't stoop to. Okay. Anna Kasparian was worth pointing out there. I mean, the whole thing was worth pointing out. I'm just saying I'm not going after it because I get it already. And someone in our group has done the work. So thank you, Pep Talks. Yeah, this is such a good attitude. Donald James X, if there's something I don't know, I will admit it. Let's learn together. I can find out all the information I need to know. That's exactly right. And that's kind of what I want to get at here. Yeah, Jake is here to make sure we eat our vegetables. Yeah, our philosophical vegetables, certainly. By the way, if you're noticing something's amiss with my green screen, I don't care to have the light in my face today. I feel the less lit I am, the better I look. And in fact, if I could be in total darkness, where you can't see me at all, I would look the very best. Hey, Jake, how are you doing? Awful. Just terrible. My countrymen are being kidnapped. The rot of America is in control. Murder is happening everywhere. I'll say this, though. Trump's dying. So it's, there's some silver lining. You are to be complimented for your Leisure Suit Larry thumbnail there. Darth Jake today, indeed. Yeah, this is so true. Another benefit of this space is we don't need 20 people covering the same work over and over. We cover more ground that way, absolutely. And that also means we can put our best on it. To be frank with you, and I'm about to tell you that you should behave differently than this, but I'm just being honest. When I do this stuff, in the moment I don't realize it, but when I'm watching the playback, I do tend to get poisonous. Venomous. Brandon Sutton was covering something earlier today about an all-white community, and I found myself in the comments praying for tornadoes. And it might have been funny in the moment, and I didn't think about this until pretty much I sat down here. The people we need to convince are going to see that. And they're going to see that one of us was out there wishing death upon these folks. I mean, ultimately, that's what I was doing. And I meant it. That's a problem. That's no way for us to behave. And every time we give into that, it pushes the cause back. Which is why it's good that somebody like Pep Talks was covering this. And it's good that we have this space so that the best of us can cover what we need to. No lights gives Jake better skin. Yeah. Actually, no photons bouncing off me at all is ideal. If I could be in utter absence of light, that's the way to go. Okay, 2026. It's coming. Why do we need to convince anybody? First of all, well, let me say this again. 2026 is coming. During it, it's going to be our job to be evangelicals. We have to reach out to communities that do not agree with us. That doesn't necessarily mean communities that strictly disagree with us. It could be communities that don't pay much attention to this stuff at all. But regardless, We've got to reach out to communities who are not already in agreement with us and gain their agreement. Not an impossible task. Not when you divide it up. Not when you take it one person at a time, which is all we're really going to be asked to do. Or one conversation at a time. Let's say that. But why? Why do we need to do this? In fact, a couple of years ago, I was saying we don't need to do this. We can do this with just progressives. Well, first of all, we lost. Straight up lost the last election. Pathetic. I have no explanation for that. I will carry that guilt for everything that's happened between now and then for the rest of my life because I bear some responsibility. We all do, but me more than you, probably. Definitely. Let me try to wiggle out of responsibility. Me more than you, but all of us. At the time, if we would have gotten progressives in office, or even a progressive Congress, or a progressive-leaning Congress, there was time to fix the things that need to be fixed, flood money to Ukraine, boycott Israeli, yada, yada, yada. Global warming measures. There was time. But we are so low on time now. And there is so much evil done over the course of this year to undo that we will now require major acts by the U.S. government. For example, abolishing ICE altogether. A new Magna Carta for the presidency that establishes that the president is, in fact, subject to all the same laws that we are, and can be arrested at any time, just like you or me. None of this Roman dictator, you can't be arrested while in office thing. That is so obviously a perversion of the intention of America. That is so obviously not what we are about. We require 2/3 votes for most of this stuff. Oh, and getting big money out of politics. Undoing Buckley v. Vallejo. Undoing Citizens United. We need to do all this stuff with bipartisan agreement. I hate the word because it's usually meant to water down radical change. But what I'm telling you here and now is that the plan, at least as I'm pitching it, is to get bipartisan agreement not to water down change and take it from radical to useless, but in fact, to achieve radical change. A lot of the folks that voted for Trump also voted for Obama. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I know. But it's one we have to acknowledge. Also tells me that a lot of the folks that voted for Trump understand, at least fundamentally, the basics, let me try it again, understands at least the fundamentals of what's wrong with America. The old power system is only interested in protecting the rich and allowing you to suffer. The old power system is willing to let you die rather than turn a billionaire into a 100-millionaire. The old power system, which consists of both Democrats and Republicans, is in fact an oligarchy, and it must be taken down. Look, that's the hardest thing for us to get other political actors to accept. That is what is going to be the stumbling block when it comes to centrist Democrats, i.e., the average Democrat, God help us. By the way, the average person MAGA is likely to run into. Drink that in. The old, I'm going to burn your house down, Bozy. The old power system, distrust in it, is something we have in common with MAGA. Now, look, I'm not going to try to tell you that A, we're going to agree on much, B, that they're going to vote for the same people we are, probably not, or C, that we will not be fighting them constantly for the rest of their existence. All those things will remain as you believe them to be. We are going to have to be arguing with them. They're not going to want to vote for the same people. I don't remember the other thing. That too. We're gonna not get along great. Doesn't matter. We can work in the margins on that other stuff. You know, believing that brown folks aren't inherently suspicious. That just the sort of basic decency that you expect a human being to have, we'll have to be the only ones that maintain that. But why? Why is so much energy pumped into making people racist? Into there was that whole thing that Pep Talks just did. Two devils out there trying to make people hate Somalis. Why? Why does stuff like that get propped up by billionaires? Yeah, it's because they don't want us to have the one conversation that everybody's aching to have. How do we get rid of the billionaires? What are unifying forces? When we are united in the United States, we actually are effective. Most of the time, we're just pulling our putts. Most of the time, we fuck around. Most of the time, the giant is asleep. But when we're not, major things happen. Tea gets thrown into the ocean. Would-be kings lose their heads. Well, it's America. They get shot in the dome. But still, you understand the point. When we are unified, we do things well. So what are unifying forces? Well, if you're a progressive, your mind probably jumps to things like empathy. Absolutely. What makes somebody from a different background from me, in other words, try to achieve the same thing? As a progressive, empathy is a big one. I am not a Palestinian. Never have been. Never in a past life, as far as I know. Never lived there. I don't speak the language. The only reason I can find it on a map is because of the horrors we've heard about. But I have empathy for human beings. I see a child get bombed. I feel bad. It ruins my day. I assume it does yours as well. Empathy unifies, sure. But we're not going to be able to do that with MAGA. I suspect, I cannot prove, and it doesn't help us to dwell, but I'll just say it so that we can understand at least my biases. I suspect that part of the appeal of MAGA is nihilism. I suspect a rejection of empathy and an embrace of perversion is part of their appeal. I think they are like a planet lost to chaos in the Imperium. They are reveling in the horror they're creating. And they're just happy to see other people suffer. Because who knows? But we won't have empathy to rely on. Okay. Truth. Truth is definitely a unifying force. Truth is how we got corporate Democrats with us. Truth is how we got the IHIP ladies, the I've Had It podcast ladies, going from presumably being at best center-left, probably quite right, to two of the most successful, effective messengers for progressive politics. Truth. January 6th was a attempted coup. Right-wing domestic terrorism has been the greatest threat to national security since George Bush's day. Truth is also not something we will have. So what's a unifying force we might have in common with MAGA? See if you guys can guess it in the comments. Genuinely, try to guess. We can't rely on empathy. We can't rely on truth. What's something, in your opinion, that you think we could rely on conversationally with MAGA folks to get us both on the same side of an issue? Going to listen while I work, says Cat67Cat. Good for you. Natchikit, the 1% fucking us over. That is 100% correct. Also, Pink, if you're making bread, let me tell you that at the conclusion of this show, I'm going to go check on the apple cinnamon bread I'm making, and we'll see if that horrible burning smell means what I think it does. But correct, Natchikit. That's what I think. We can unify with MAGA over anger. Anger is something we have in common. Anger is something they are looking to pour out into the world. They have spite, they have anger, they desire vengeance, and hey, so do we. So do we. Think about the vile things you would prefer be done to Jeff Bezos, that mother. Think about how the fella who appeared on the Epstein list, and of course, also ruined education in America, Bill Gates. What awful things would you like done to him? Would you, at the very least, you like him to spend a good 20 years in prison for his child diddling? I would. How about Eric Adams, that prick that got pardoned? He thieved from America. Really bummed me out. Who pardoned that guy? Who would pardon that filthy, corrupt Democrat? Anger is a unifying force. Anger is something we have in common with MAGA. Now, I know they've been told a lot of bull crap. I understand this to be true. But with an abundance of anger at our disposal, it's very easy to say, set aside your hatred of the brown person, the gay person, the poet, I don't know, the person who feeds and houses stray animals, anybody who does anything good in this world. I know MAGA will come up with an excuse to hate. Just set that aside for a moment. I'm not even asking you to let it go. Not even asking you to let go of that anger. I'm just saying, MAGA person that I'm hypothetically talking to right now, let's focus our anger on who we both agree can start a shotgun. The billionaires. So, why focus on this? Or rather, if you know you're going to focus on this, what do? What between now and the next time you find yourself, whenever that may be, and it will probably be random, the next time you find yourself talking to a MAGA voter, what do? Well, you learn everything you can about those arguments that you suspect you'll be making. You learn handy little things for them to carry on to their communities. For example, people love rattling off numbers, you know? Just a little fact. A, because it makes you feel smart, but B, more so, I think, because it sums up the point you're trying to make so well. You guys have done a great job of remembering that 1 million seconds is 11 days and 1 billion seconds is 37 years. Keep saying that. Say it often enough that it gets into people's brains and grows there like a cancer. Give people numerical brain cancer. That's a clip. 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds, 37 years. We should not have billionaires. Think about what a difference in your life it would be if you suddenly had $1 million in the bank. You you could pretty much retire, most likely. But if you had $1 billion in the bank, you could buy a country. Not all the countries, but a country. It's an insane amount of power for somebody to have. And in America, we've made money and power interchangeable. It's too much power. It makes somebody into nobility. And modernly, the word we use for that is oligarchy. And by the way, when your when your oligarch is allowed to pass down their whole fortune to their kids, and that includes land, where they are allowed to say what goes. Usually it's a business of some sort or a series of businesses, but ultimately it comes down to land upon which people dwell. For example, if you are a landlord on which people dwell and you get to say what goes. Nobility. That shit should not be welcome in America. Here's some more little facts and figures you can rattle off for people to help make the point about who they should hate. 15% of the nation's wealth is controlled by 130,000 people. Now understand, America has, I believe, 332 million people in it. Yet 15% of all of our wealth as a country is held on to by 130,000 people. You can design very generous public policy. You can design a free healthcare policy and, let's say, a free house insurance policy and a feed the homeless policy and a house the homeless policy, and base the funding for that entirely off taxing those 130,000 people. Nobody else, just the 0.01%. Basically, we want to take people with hatred in their heart, with good old-fashioned American loathing, and focus that shit on the people who deserve it, who we are going to fuck to death. That's the plan. Bond with these bastards over hate. At one point, Americans and the Ruskies set aside their distaste for each other to go kill Nazis because they could all agree that that was the good and decent thing to do. And they were right. Absolutely, they were correct. That is the good and decent thing to do. We can do the same with MAGA. I know. We hate them. I really, really hate them. But do you hate them more than you care about the people who are suffering? Do you hate them more than you want to help others? Do you hate them more than you want this to be a country of principles? If it is any consolation, our victory is inevitable because we are correct. And those who survive to see it will include a healthy amount of MAGA folks, assuming they stop with this anti-vax nonsense. And the rightness of our arguments will be proved, and their shame will never wash away. And it's not like for the rest of our lives, we are not going to be just inundated with documentaries about how corrupt this time was, how evil this was, how loathsome the people who enabled this were. A major part of the rest of all of our lives is going to be hearing again and again about how the people who I'm asking you to talk to effed up. That means they're going to be hearing that for the rest of their lives as well. Is that a sufficient punishment for the lives they have ruined? No. It's not. But they will receive that as a punishment. Their shame will haunt them. Their behavior now will be the opposite of what the hippies' behavior was. You will have that. And hey, I don't want you to think that there's only negative things we can unify over. Because there's something else I left off the list. Curiosity. You can also ask questions that are interesting. Often, what you can do is ask questions that you know the answer to. When you hear somebody say that they like a certain bill or dislike a certain bill, and you know who voted for it, it's a great time to say, "Oh, okay, yeah, so you did like that. Cool. Do you want to see who? Let's see how Congress voted." Pull it up on your phone. Hey, who voted for this? I don't think that it's going to be too hard to make the point using curiosity as a tool to guide the conversation. And I picked probably the most boring example that I could, but I don't think it's going to be too hard to illustrate the way the world currently works. The more conservative a politician is, the more likely they are to be involved in corruption. It's that simple. You put politicians on a scale of left to right, and try not to slap your microphone like it didn't give you all your money. Boy, that was dark. You put them on this scale, and you will find that on the left, you have basically no corruption. And by the way, don't get too high on your horses, because the left hasn't had enough power to really be corrupt yet. Just saying. But this nonetheless remains true. People on the left, almost no corruption. People on the right, almost nothing but corruption. Nothing but scandals, scamming their people, caught constantly in hooer houses and the like. I mean, everything you think about politicians is spread out on that scale. Decency on the left, evil on the right. Using curiosity, you won't have to say that. It'll just become apparent, because that's what the reality is. Now, again, I stress, understand, the political left in the United States has not had power, really, since before Reagan. And I would argue that it's never really been the driving force in America. The most progressive president we ever had was Lyndon Johnson. And the only reason, I mean, he outright stated he hated a lot of the policies he supported. But the reason he was progressive, he was following Kennedy, trying to live up to what people thought Kennedy was going to be like, yada, yada. But my point being, Lyndon Johnson, forced people to see your Wang Johnson. Lyndon Vietnam War Johnson was amongst our most progressive presidents. So my point being, well, those things are true. And well, right now, the progressive side of things smells like roses, and frankly is the only way to get us out of these problems. And it's literally just the matter of time before it is acknowledged. Do remember that we are all human beings, and we just haven't had an opportunity to be corrupt yet. Fingers crossed. Send that mic back to school. Oh, God, yes, because I slept. I'm sorry. I think 2026 APAC will be a poison pill and toxic to many politicians. This should be a unifying issue. Absolutely. And you can file that under curiosity or anger. If enough people demand it, they can't ignore it. Fair. Your family can't smell roses. Are you being literal? Like you literally are not able to smell specifically roses, or have I missed a thing? Yeah. Oh yeah. Somali communities are under attack. 100%. But that's why there's the need to unify with these folks, because I'll tell you, there's some knock-on effects to this. If you get a red hat wearing punk to agree that billionaires got to go, and then you invite them as a friend to the Billionaires Gotta Go rally, how many folks with some melanin do you think are going to be there? How many people are they going to be surrounded by who are just regular human beings? Just like, all of us, but happen to be from the left. A lot, you got to imagine. Now, what happens the next time Johnny Bigot hears something bigoted about those nice folks he just met? Because he's a conservative, I assume he's not going to be very brave about it. He's not going to actually speak up. But it's not going to ring true. He's going to hesitate to do that, make you feel good, acknowledge you made a joke, laugh. Ha ha ha, yeah. Instead, he might go, Yeah, I heard you. Yeah. The culture changes little by little. Believe it or not, I did have clips I want to show you. Lyndon shows us his Johnson. America is so fun, you guys. We always have been. I'm just glad it's visible now. Most Johns are loyal and trustworthy. Some will kill you, but most are all right. Yeah, true. This is true. Oh, you mean people named John? Never mind. I'm sorry. I've had a lot of careers in my time. I've made 2 references to an old one today. I do want to close out of this thing that I don't need. Uh-oh. Okay, we're good. Hopefully. Oh my God, I cannot believe how fast an hour goes by. All right, so I'm just going to, in 30 seconds, no, maybe 5 minutes, do this Trump thing. Okay, so the good news I was talking about earlier, Trump's dying. Let's just say it. I realize it's not exactly a super astute observation to point out that he's wilting in front of our eyes. But the motherfucker's wilting in front of our eyes. The injections he's getting appear to be monthly. As Sam Cedar pointed out, there's a Alzheimer's drug that people take monthly via injection. His family has a history with the disease. And also he's acting more and more erratically, much like folks that have Alzheimer's. Now look, this dude theoretically is just dumb, but this is something he said.
Because think of it, these aren't outstanding buildings. These are small buildings. These are $4 billion more. It's going to end up costing more than $4 billion.
He's talking about Jerome Powell. The leader of the Fed. The guy is doing renovations on buildings. That's he has to approve because he's the chair of the Fed. He's got to approve the regulations or the renovations. And as far as we can tell, they are on time and on budget. But famously, Trump is angry that Jerome Powell will not do as Trump insists when it comes to interest rates in America. He wants them lower. Jerome Powell says, nay.
$4 billion. It's the highest price of construction. Again, Democrats, highest price of construction per square foot in the history of the world. There's never been gorgeous monuments.
Okay, so couple of things. It's not the most expensive anything in the history of the world. So that was a lie. Why is that shocking? What does that have to do with his dementia? I don't know. Maybe the fact that he doesn't feel that the things that he says need to be true in order for him to say it, in order for him to ask people to support this or that. I would say that's not his dementia, but that is his character, and it should scare you if he, for example, thinks something is real because of his dementia and then chooses to act upon it in this way. But there's something else he said just now. He said, Democrats, Jerome Powell, Democrats. He's said this before. And it's worth noting that if he said this before, then somebody within his White House would have told him, sir, you appointed Jerome Powell. Donald Trump appointed Jerome Powell in 2017 in his first term. Biden, because he is a conservative, did not change that appointment. Biden just kept him in place. Now Trump has him again. He keeps accusing Jerome Powell of being a Democrat appointee multiple times, despite probably having been warned by his own people, hey, you look like a dementia-ridden psycho up there because you keep saying this thing which is not true and is easily fact-checked, as in one Google, who appointed Jerome Powell, will tell you. Donald Trump 2017.
American workers and American farmers have been ripped off. They've been ripped off, and what he's saying is we want to have a trade with the world, but it has to be a trade in which American businesses and American workers and the products they make and what American farmers...
I'm muting it because this is visual only. One of the side effects of the drugs used to treat Alzheimer's is drowsiness. Okay, we get it. Trump's a Wilton. What does that mean for us? Well, you hear a lot of people say, well, that's not good. It means J.D. Vance is coming. Yeah, maybe. Whether it's good or bad, let's set aside. It's happening. I think famously now, he fell asleep 6 times in 7 days. Or maybe it was 8 days. I don't recall. But he fell asleep within the span of a week multiple times on camera. We have to prepare for what might happen. What might happen over the next couple of months is similar to what happened with, oh my gosh, who's that? Oh, Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein, where his helpers are basically running the show. And by the way, I suspect a bit of that's happening right now because he seems to mostly be paying attention to the decorations happening around him. His helpers are running the show, and they pawn off all of the evil they do onto Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. Trump is evil. Trump will absolutely sign off on all these things. But in the coming months, it's going to be more and more important for us to focus our critiques and for you guys to encourage all of us through chat, through the way you interact with us in Discord, all the ways, the email, phone calls, encourage us to focus fire on those people who are pulling the strings, on those other people who carried out the illegal orders that Trump gives. 2 reasons. Number one, they don't have immunity. Number two, they are the people we're going to be dealing with probably in 6 months. We need a continuity of our critiques. We need a continuity of criticism for these folks. It seems small, I know, but it is going to be important because otherwise they're going to be able to take a mulligan on this whole year. In the middle of economic distress, which is coming starting January in a huge way, as we are embroiled in a needless war with Venezuela, as all this stuff happens, Trump is going to be exiting office and then shortly thereafter, Earth. And we cannot allow the consequence of his sins to leave with him. We need a new Magna Carta out of this. We need a fundamental change in power, and we need it crystal clear that no Republican is ever welcome in office ever again. We do that by establishing now that they are all accountable. All of them bear responsibility for the kidnapping of human beings right off of U.S. streets, for the destruction of liberty that they have presided over, for turning us into a rogue state that attacks other nations at whim. All of these bastards need to be out of power. And they need to be out of power if we are to survive. It's not an exaggeration. I sincerely wish it were. But they are literally cooking the planet. And they are literally killing innocents every day. So my only suggestion to you going into 2026, don't forgive Trump, don't ignore Trump. But when you hear that he's done X or Y crazy thing, ask about his little henchman that helped, because odds are they are using a dementia-ridden old racist as a body shield for their reputations. Hello, Fixer at home. Good day from Australia. Isn't it like 4 a.m. there? Good day. He gets to be the TV president. Yeah. Yeah, he's 400 years old. They get tired in the middle of the day. Embarrassing, we are run by these people. They're also going to last longer than he will. Absolutely. 7 a.m. Okay. Well, rising, early riser. Good on you. Oh, all right. You know what? We're going to squeeze this in here. Our gal, Emma Vigeland, was on CNN yesterday, and she did us proud. Some of you might remember that the United States engaged in or assisted with a genocide that is in fact still going on in Palestine. When you are talking to MAGA folks in 2026, as I am begging you to, one of your strongest negotiating tools will be your openness about how much you despise Democrats. Hey, that's anger again. Something you have in common. Do not feel the need to defend the reputations of the likes of Joe fucking Biden, Genocide Joe, and his squad. Here's Emma Vigeland doing a great job of showing how effective that can be. Understand, CNN is an increasingly right-wing crowd. So to hear this in front of them from her, beautiful. Oh, and hey, by the way, right-wingers who are on MAGA don't really watch CNN, but they watch people watching CNN. And that's who this is going to play for.
The United States completely losing, and the Biden administration is immensely complicit in this as well. Moral standing throughout the world due to our complicity in the genocide in Gaza, which has made it very difficult for us to speak to Ukrainian sovereignty.
What did I just tell you? You fucking wax style looking nothing.
And having a bully like the Russian government invading their sovereign territory. We had a doctor on our show who spoke about how the death toll is in the hundreds of thousands at this point, because the numbers that are currently being reported are only the numbers of the death toll of people who have been counted in the hospital.
Boom.
There are hundreds of thousands of people presumed dead, suffocating to death, crushed to death under rubble because of United States bombs. And that's across this administration and Trump here, who did get this ceasefire that he touts all the time in October. But when you look at the actual numbers here, Israel has violated it hundreds of times since that period, multiple times a day, killed at least 400 Palestinians during that period. And this will go down as one of the worst crimes in the history of humanity that our government, the Biden administration, and the Trump administration are complicit in.
Does it go down? Does it go down? We have to debate this.
Yeah, we don't have to. We actually don't.
We don't have to.
Correct. We do not have to debate it, Emma, because it's just facts. But I'm just going to let this whole motherfucking clip play.
Time for the anti-Israel propaganda. We don't have time for the anti-Israel propaganda.
We don't have time to debate it.
Could you say Hamas was wrong at any point during this conversation?
That's fine.
Listen, we know that there's plenty of disagreement on that issue.
I never said that.
Well, we let it on spool for 2 minutes, but sure. I mean, honestly.
Okay, I have a quick word.
Well, I don't understand. Israel's our ally. Not a single word in your speech for the atrocities that were committed on October the 7th.
We should
not
cut
a single
off
word,
arms tomorrow.
not a single word for the idea that Israel has every right to defend itself.
Because what does that have to do with the conversation? Let me just jump in real quick. Does Israel have a right to defend itself? Absolutely. What does this that they're doing have to do with defending themselves? If somebody punches you in the face and then runs away, do you have a right to creep into their home in the night and stab their family to death? But you have a right to defend yourself. What they are doing is not self-defense. What they are doing is an excuse for genocide. And that's something we should be aware of because we did it 20 years ago. They are following our pattern with 9/11. We used a tragedy. We used an attack on us as an excuse to attack unrelated people. They are attacking unrelated people in the form of babies. And look, if you think, but, Israel must be able to defend itself, I agree. But here's the thing. If we're giving them weapons and they are killing 10 civilians for every one member of Hamas, that's not self-defense. They are either too incompetent to use those weapons or too dishonorable to use those weapons. Take your pick. It doesn't matter which. It's one or the other. And either way, we should not give them any weapons at all. Finish it up, Emma.
Not a single word for the fact that Hamas right now is killing people inside of God, their own people. You seem to say it all at the feet of Israel, a democratic ally in your own country, and you have no negative word for the terrorists who raped and murdered and kidnapped. Zero.
B'Tselem, Israeli human rights group, says they're committing genocide.
You still don't.
We gotta go. Rita Ninen, thank you very much.
Punk bitch. Yeah.
Sometimes I lose.
Whoops. Sorry, that was a commercial auto playing. So there it is, gang. To recap, 2026 was awful. The U.S. has fallen in the eyes of the world. Honestly, that's probably good for us in the long run. It just is very sad that we had to act so boorishly for that to have happened. We have passed the point of being able to not work with MAGA. We're going to have to convert people that don't believe in the things we do to believing some of the things we do. This includes having them harass the awful people they put in power to vote certain ways on bills. Proof positive was the Epstein files. If you capture their imagination, it is possible to get them to change the way their representatives vote. That's less work for us, and we desperately need that. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake.